reflecting for some people seems to be extremely difficult to do when they're not in the best mental space. Because I'm not sure about it for who you've been talking with over these years, but I know for a lot of people I talk to, it's when they're already done. They're super checked out, they're burned out, and then that's when I was just like, yeah, but I want you to reflect upon what you've done, like your accomplishments, your skills, your passions. Like, I want you to go through things. And a lot of the time, that's when it's like the trickiest, because at this point in time, you're feeling defeated, you hate your job, your boss is a jerk, and it's just like, like I'm worthless. And it's like, no, you're not. You're in a bad place right now. But like, but we can get you there. So how do you help people to identify their skills and their strengths when perhaps they're not in the best headspace right now and things don't really look so great? How do you help them from that perspective?
Yeah. That's like 99.9% of the people that I work with. And I will say this, right? Like, if anyone, I'm going to say a quick little story and I'm going to answer that, because I was just at a conference, the Talent Development Think Tank conference, where I spoke on finding your L&D niche and creating a blueprint. And what was funny is afterwards, someone came into my session after it had ended, and she said, I didn't come to your session because I actually like my job right now. And I thought that thinking about my next step meant that I have to hate my job. Like, and it was so interesting because I think we societally, right, we're conditioned that like, stay where you are while you're happy, but as soon as you're not happy, then start looking. And there's something really beautiful about being happy and also thinking about what's next for you. And it doesn't even necessarily mean you're going to leave your job. It might mean that your scope changes and things like that. So if anyone's listening and they're like, oh, but I really love my job, I'm just going to stop listening to this episode right now because I don't care about what's next. Keep listening, because I think it's really important to always be, you don't have to always be upskilling and always be like, applying, but always be thinking about, your overarching legacy that you want to leave behind. And then what's that next step there? So I want to say that piece, but going back to the mindset, I honestly say that career transitioning is 90% mindset, 10% strategy. I give you the strategy. You work for me. You work with me. I literally give you the step by step strategy that has worked for 200 plus people. Like, that's the easy part. The hard part is our mindset around it. And so I think what's really, really important, that kind of first step in mindset, confidence and clarity live, like, to me, they are like brother and sister, like a very, very close brother and sister. Like, it's very hard to have one without the other. And so what I encourage people to do, where people are getting to that burnt out phase a lot of times, especially in career transitioning, because they don't have the clarity. They're throwing spaghetti at the wall. They're hoping something sticks. I call it being in the vicious application cycle. You apply to anything and everything, then you're getting rejections. You apply to things that maybe you're actually overqualified for because you're getting rejections. Then you get rejected from that, and you're like, what's wrong with me? No one wants me. Like, that job I could do in my sleep. And so you keep kind of going into this cycle. And that will really mess with your mindset. Like, that will really, really mess with your mindset. Rejection sucks, period, right? Like, no one's like, yes, rejection. But that kind of keeps us in that spiral. So one of the things that's really important is that we like cut ourselves off from that. And so usually when clients come and work with me, we like stop all applications right away. And that can be really scary, especially if you're like, I need to get out from where I am, and I'm not applying for jobs. But it's that calm, that giving yourself a break and a space from it to get clarity. And then a lot of that clarity, the more clarity that you can get, the more confident then you can become. And you kind of get into this much better cycle of, as I'm getting clearer, I'm getting more confident. And as I'm getting more confident, I can be more reflective because I now look back at my skills and I can look at them from a different lens. So my advice is, if you're feeling that way, it's a good time to actually take a pause. And most people think, I got to push through. But pushing through actually holds you back, versus taking a pause and reevaluating is what will quantum leap you forward. So taking a pause, reevaluating, getting clear on what it is you actually want to do, not what you think you should be doing next. That is a really great place to start a mindset shift. And then from there, figuring out too, like, what are the stories you're telling yourself? What are the root thoughts? I was literally just having this conversation with my group coaching this morning. Like, what are the root thoughts that are the stories that we've been telling ourselves? And how does that react how we're speaking and how we're showing up and our behaviors? And how can we start to rework those? It takes time. But it's being conscious of it too.
All that makes sense. And I'm also really glad that you mentioned too, by the way, about how even if you were happy, you can still look for jobs. Because I definitely have talked to a lot of people who are, as you literally mentioned, where they're like, no, everything is fine. It's great. It's okay. And then all of a sudden it's just like, and all of a sudden now I'm just, I can't do it anymore. And you're like, okay. So there had to have been some signs along the way that maybe let's just think about things, explore options here. And as you mentioned too, you changing about the project scope of work. I've also found for some people that they can just do their job, but if you are able to go and do something on the side, as far as for consulting, teaching, speaking, whatever, that sometimes that kind of fills that gap of trying to just add a little bit of something into your job, where you're like, okay, now this is better. Like it doesn't